What's going on, guys? Jimmy here with the General Expert channel here on YouTube, and would you believe it, this is my very first GoPro. What I want to do is focus on someone like me, someone who is a first-time GoPro user, and how to set this thing up for incredible footage. Now, what's really funny is when I first took this out of the package, I had of course done a lot of research into the settings. And so before I even started recording my test footage to check it out, I went into the menu system and changed a bunch of the settings. Settings like the resolution from 5.3K to 4K, settings like the bitrate from their normal bitrate to their high bitrate, and settings like their sharpness from medium down to low. And let me tell you, that sharpness setting was what really threw me for a loop. You know, on YouTube, you get a lot of differing opinions, and you obviously have some people who are extremely good at post-processing, but then you have people like me who don't really want to do a whole heck of a lot of post-processing. I don't want to have to go in and resharpen and recolor everything. So I initially set the sharpness setting down to low, and when I recorded the footage in 4K and the 5.3K, I was kind of shocked at how blurry it was. Like really shocked. Like enough to where I thought, oh my gosh, there's something wrong with the camera or the lens. Like, it was really bad. But I had done my research. I did watch tons of videos regarding the GoPro Hero 10 Black. And I knew from the footage that I was seeing from other people that this thing does an excellent job. It records fantastic footage. So why wasn't my footage looking like that? Well, to be completely honest, and what shocked me so much was that simple little sharpness setting. Setting that sharpness to low, in my opinion, is an absolute mistake. For me, the perfect setting is that medium setting that comes from the factory out of the box. That medium setting is going to get you a nice crystal clear image that looks fantastic and not too over sharpened. And there's one other setting that I did change, and I think it makes a whole world of a difference. And that setting is the color. For the color, GoPro gives you vibrant, natural, and flat. And I gotta say, although natural is decent, and I haven't even tried the vibrant, for me, flat is where it's at. When I changed that color down to flat, suddenly this didn't quite look like a typical small sensor action cam anymore. Suddenly it looked like I had good dynamic range. Suddenly there was more information in the shadows. It didn't have that over sharpened small sensor action cam look, and I think for me, that is another must do. Oh, and the other thing, I switched the bitrate to high, and so far everything's been looking great. Okay, so let's get some quick testing underway. Everything you've been seeing so far has been being filmed on my iPhone 12 Pro. This video that you're seeing right here is the front-facing camera on the iPhone 12 Pro, and now I'm using the rear camera on this iPhone 12 Pro. It's the 1X camera. And you can probably still see it's a little bit shaky, but I also want you to pay attention to the color, the sharpness, the clarity, and all that good stuff, and perhaps even the exposure. It's going to be a little different from something like the GoPro. Another thing to note, this entire edit is done in Adobe Premiere Pro. So the sequence is set up for the GoPro at 5.3K. And any of this footage you're seeing from the iPhone, which is 4K, is going to be stretched to fit the frame. That's just how I wanted to do it so I can capture the full essence of the 5.3K. Hopefully it'll all work out and we'll be able to see a difference. Okay, finally, what you're here for. You want to see the footage from the GoPro Hero 10 Black in 5.3K. So hopefully we'll still be able to see a difference between this GoPro 5.3K footage and also the other cameras that I have shown you, notably the iPhone 12 Pro and also this Sony Action Cam that I'm going to show you in a second. So about what you're seeing now, this is filmed in 5.3K, 24 frames a second. Hyper smooth is set to high. This is the linear lens. Sharpness is set to medium. My EV is set to -0.5, and the color profile is that flat option. I'm just going to do a little bit of turning as I talk, just so the sun can hit my skin and my face and everything in different ways, and you can sort of see the difference. When I'm being completely lit by the sun like I am now, like the sun is there just blasting me, I'm probably a little bit blown out and the color probably looks a little bit weird. But if I start to turn and I'm not so lit by the sun on the front of my face, things probably start to look a little bit better. I bet it probably looks even better as I turn. Now, the reason why I won't continue just using the iPhone all the time is because I can't really tell what my framing is. And although that iPhone does an incredible job with the 4K 24, it's got an actual focusing motor that focuses that lens, so you really get kind of like a blurred background, and it does a great job with focusing, but the GoPro doesn't have that functionality. It doesn't have the ability to select focus focus and then somewhat blur the background. The GoPro just has a lens with the focus being set at a specific point, and I'm hoping it's kind of like this distance, like the distance that a person would hold the GoPro to their face. I'm guessing that's kind of what it is. But you can see the GoPro probably does a much better job with stabilization. It obviously looks pretty dang good. It's a lighter, smaller camera. And now with the Hero 10, we have the front-facing screen that you can have on the whole time you're recording. Mine is set to turn off after a minute, so I'm not quite sure about my framing right now. I'm guessing that I am in frame because this is such a wide view on this lens. My arm is shaking a little bit because I've been holding this so long, but so far I'm really curious what you think about the footage here, about the audio. That's another big thing, the audio, which I've actually been kind of impressed with from what I've been hearing, and also the clarity, the sharpness, the color. What do you think it looks like? Give me your opinions down in the comment section below. Again, the purpose of this video isn't to go through all the specs and all that good stuff. You can find that in a lot of other videos. So this is really just so you can see a good example, something that I would have wanted to see when I was trying to make my decision. Do I get the GoPro or not? Or do I go for another brand or skip the action cams altogether? Is my iPhone good enough? For me, the iPhone is fantastic, but where it fails is in the ability to be able to see my framing before I take the shot, and also the ability to be able to film in small, tight spaces, like for example using a suction cup mount and sticking this thing to the inside of my windshield to film myself driving. On my other channel called One Road, I do a lot of overlanding trips, and I needed this smaller form factor camera that had great stabilization and good audio and was wide and all that good stuff, so I could stick the camera right there on the windshield and film myself driving hands-free. Okay, so now I'm filming with the Sony Action Cam. Yes, this is a 1080p high bitrate, 24 frames a second. The color is set to neutral. I think that's what it's called. But it does have some stabilization there, nothing like what the GoPro has. And this was really good when I bought the camera. This was an incredible feature to have a high bitrate. I believe it was a full sensor readout, and therefore there was no line skipping and all that stuff. So it looked really good at the time, and it still does. It really does. But like I said before, this sequence in my editing is going to be set up for the GoPro at 5.3K. So I'm having to stretch or fit this 1080 frame all the way up to 5.3K frame. So it's going to probably look more blurry or something. I don't really know what it's going to look like because I haven't done this yet. So in editing, that's what I'm going to have to do, I suspect, in order to get this to fit the frame. I may also show what the actual 1080p frame looks like in size comparison to the GoPro. But let me do some spinning here with the light in certain areas of my face, and you can also pay attention to the background, like some of the leaves and stuff, with just how sharp they are and just what the overall scene looks like color-wise, clarity-wise, sharpness-wise, you know, contrast and all that good stuff. What do you think? Is the Sony Action Cam with this Zeiss lens, is this thing pretty good still to this day, even though it is only 1080p? I think it's kind of like still okay. Yeah, it truly is. The other thing you're probably noticing is the difference in sound quality. Like I showed you, this Sony Action Cam has two stereo mics right underneath the lens, front facing. So they're able to pick up my audio from my mouth or whatever the scene is very, very clearly. I am backlit from the sun, so I'm curious how this thing is comparing to the GoPro and handling the exposure in that situation. But overall, what do you think of the Sony Action Cam? I know this is a very weird comparison because the Sony Action Cam probably can't even hold a candle to the GoPro, but I gotta tell you, when I first saw that GoPro footage, initially switching that sharpness down to low before I did any testing, and I was looking at that 4K footage with the low sharpness, I was shocked at how blurry it was. And I was like, man, my Sony Action Cam is better than this. So that's why I thought I'd throw this Sony Action Cam in the mix. So we're getting a good sense of the difference between something like this 1080p Sony Action Cam my iPhone 12 Pro, which films in 4K, and the new GoPro Hero 10 Black. All right, guys, well, we've talked about this GoPro Hero 10 for long enough. We've done some tests. We've seen different qualities of the footage coming out of this camera. We've heard the audio. We've also seen footage from my iPhone 12 Pro, as well as that old school Sony Action Cam at 1080p. So what do you think? Start the discussion down in the comments section below. Let me know, what are your thoughts? Do you own a GoPro Hero 10? What are your settings? What would you do differently than what I'm doing here now? Keep in mind, like I said in the beginning of this video, this is my very first GoPro. All right, guys, well, that'll do it for this one here in the Great Smoky Mountains of Tennessee. And you may have heard some construction noises in the background. They're doing some construction on a cabin nearby, but hopefully this gave you a great idea of the quality of the footage coming out of this GoPro, the settings that I'm using to get what I'm happy with, and also the audio quality, things that I think everyone wants to know about. So thanks, guys, again for watching. I'm Jimmy with The General Expert here on YouTube, signing out.